All right. Welcome, everybody. We have Price Wheeler on today, founder and CEO of Wheeler Wealth, husband, father of four, Navy veteran. I mean, what haven't you done, man?
Tommy, I appreciate you having me on here. It's great to see you. I'm glad to see you're doing well. I'm excited to be here today. Excited to answer some questions, bounce ideas, thoughts. All the above. What haven't I done? Gosh,
You're a surfer, too. We'll throw
yeah,
that in
yeah,
there.
yeah. Surfing, right? Yeah, big passion around that. I don't know. Some adventure. I'm still looking for a quest, a mountain to climb.
Yeah, with what I'm trying to do with this is just look at successful people, what it means to them, because success is going to look different for different people. Not everyone wants to make $100 million, and there's different views on success, whether that's freedom or owning your own business or creating something of your own. And you've clearly done that with Wheeler Wealth. You left your W-2 job as a financial advisor and said, I'm going to go out and build something of my own and own my own book and have my own clients and create something. How has that been going so far?
Amazing. I think it's when I go back and rewind the clock and even the long days, the long nights, the trials and tribulations, the stress, the anxiety of it all. But you look back, and so we founded Wheeler Wealth April of 2024, so a little over 2 years ago, and it's been an incredible journey. And to think, when I started this in April of 24, 2 years ago, and to think where we would be today in 2 years felt like forever away. And now to be at the 2 year mark and looking back, it's just where has the time gone? That went by so quickly. And I related to our kids. We now have four kids. Our oldest son is 7 years old, and long days, stressful nights, and just pure chaos, pandemonium. What feels like each and every day, the long days, but the short year. And looking back to think, where has 7 years gone with our oldest? It's incredible to see, and it feels like it took forever in that moment of time, but we look back and saying, wow, like the blink of an eye. And that's kind of how I feel with Wheeler Wealth. I mean, it's been incredible. I didn't think we would be where we are today, 2 years ago, and how quickly that's gone. And just now extrapolating that into the future of where we're going, where we're heading, and what it all means and what it all looks like is incredible.
Yeah. And where are you headed with it? Because you have a few avenues of the business, some stuff that I probably don't even know about because you've been doing other innovative stuff in the retirement space.
Yeah, I love staying busy, and the innovation, and simply put, kind of the adage of pushing the needle, pushing the threshold, pushing the envelope, however you want to coin it, right? But we have a lot of fun doing that, and I love being busy. I love the operations of it all, and so kind of the latest thing that we've been working on, and where we see I'll go back real quickly. We have two core competencies of our business, is what I like to say. We have the retirement plan space, employee sponsored retirement plans, where we'll work with companies, whether that's a 401k plan, it's a 403b, a simple IRA, a 457 for governmental municipalities. We'll help manage those corporate or employer sponsored retirement plans for the companies, and help with the employees' education, financial planning, all the above. And then we have our individual asset management, wealth management, financial planning, and insurance that we have in that individual aspect as a part of our business. And I love the retirement space. I feel more and more advisors are going away from it
Uh-huh.
because of the complexity, the legislation, the fee compression that we see. So I think it's a great opportunity for us where, one, I love the space. I love helping the masses. I love being able to have a hand in one of the largest assets of the American population being their retirement plan, if it's their pension or their 401k or 403b. So being able to have influence on that, and help the underserved, is really rewarding, because some of these people, might have a lower salary, a lower income, a lower hourly wage, and might not have a call for a financial advisor or a financial coach, and where we can come in and truly make a meaningful impact to those people's lives, just simply as a byproduct of being there for the retirement plan. So that's what I love it, and where we see the industry headed. And we've developed our very own what is called a pooled employer plan, a PEP, so a PEP as it's referred to. And just think of a 401k on steroids. It's, everybody wants to do more with less. Give me more, but I don't want to pay as much, and I don't want to have to deal with the admin and the administration of it or the complexities. Simplify it. And that's what we're seeing, and that's what the PEP has really solved for us. It's simplifying the process for the employees, for the employer, for the HR person, and it also helps insulate them. It helps protect them. It has the highest fiduciary standards and oversight on these plans, the 316, the 338, just industry jargon and
Yeah, yeah.
uh, you know,
So
ac-
you're pooling companies together, kind of like you would do with the group health insurance or
Yeah, yeah, yep. So you have a master plan document, and these plans they bolt up underneath it, and so it's efficiencies, it's economies of scale, all the above, where you get to take part in this master plan that you have. So advantageous, and we see what's been private equity has been so prevalent and just a massive you know overhaul of every industry. It seems like they're in every corner of the earth now. And so this has been a great solution for private equity groups that have a platform company. So think of just like our master plan document, and then they have their acquisitions, their roll ups, and rolling on and off as acquisitions, mature and exits are realized, investments are realized. And so it's a great solution for these private equity groups. That's been a lot of fun.
wow, wow. Yeah, that sounds really nice for some of the smaller organizations too that
Yeah. And
might
it's one tool in our tool shed, and it's not a fit for everybody. But yeah, when we have a relatively smaller organization where the HR person is also doing payroll, and they're the CFO, and they're also the chief of operations, and they're like, I can't take anything else on. So it's a great
Right,
solution. But they might actually pay a little bit more because all of those functions within the plan are being outsourced. So
right.
naturally it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but when they can appreciate the time saved and the headache saved, it pays for itself. And then the larger organizations, it's just about reduction, risk mitigation, liability reduction. How do we insulate the organization to the greatest degree? That's where the PEP is a home run.
So where would you say that financial advisors swoop in or they have legacy account, whatever, they're getting
Yeah,
charged too much or
yeah.
where's the opportunity out there?
Yeah, for us, what we're seeing in the market, because these plans have been historically so passive, they get set up and they're running like clockwork. And again, given that a majority of, and I'm using this as a broad brush stroke, but a majority of financial advisors are moving out of the 401k and over into the individual wealth. Margins are higher, revenue is higher for the same equivalent kind of size asset pool. So why not focus your attention and your time where you're going to make more money, have potentially less liability and less work, less overhead, all the above. And so that's where, you've seen this progression of maybe they set up a plan for a friend who owns a business and now they haven't seen it or touched it in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And so we can really come in and say, let's benchmark your plan. Let's look at the fees. Let's look at the investments and their performance, all the above. And would you like a little bit more support and handholding? And they haven't had a benchmark. Their fees have increased over the course of time, where in a 401k world, as the plan assets increase, the fees come down. And so without proper benchmarking, it just creeps up and up and up where it needs to be sharpened and needs to be reassessed. So that's where we can save significant dollars, whether that's for the employer or the employee or both, just by simply doing a benchmark analysis of those fees and the investments too. These share classes, the expense ratios and the associated share class for these investments are left alone. And they've been upgraded over the course of time to lower cost institutional pricing where they still may be in an A share or a more expensive share class. And it could be the T row price or the Vanguard S&P 500, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and it's priced here where we're using the same exact manager, T Rowe Price, Vanguard, whoever, at just the upgraded, modernized 2026 year 2026 version of that same manager, that same fund. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
That's
you
where we're seeing, and I think what really makes us different is we like to be hands-on. We like to be a point of communication for all things for the company, but then also the employees. Really, we really want to understand the employee base, the population, help them again, serve the underserved, serve the executives and the owners, of course, but help everybody and provide resources, support, education. And we don't see a lot of that. We'll see advisors that only talk and communicate with the executive committee, the plan committee, and what we see, that's table stakes, where the biggest impact and the biggest benefit, it's a benefit on the employee benefit package, is
Right.
to the employees. We want to communicate, we want to educate, and we want to help them accumulate this savings so that they can retire one day.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to the underserved kind of reminds me, thinking about your stories in the Navy and how you, you were almost a Navy SEAL, but we might give it to you, right? Like,
No, no, it's
you would've
never given, it's only earned.
yeah, you would've made it through without the injury. It's kinda like me. I would have went pro in some sport, but,
100%.
my back
Yeah.
and then life takes you on a different path. But okay, so what year was this when you entered the Navy? Because you were out at San Diego,
Yeah. Yeah.
to San Diego.
Yeah, to San Diego. So I enlisted in May of 2015.
Oh wow.
And you start out, you go through, you compete with a number of candidates for top scores in this delayed entry program while you're still at home. PST, I think it's physical standard test or physical standardized test, where you're running, you're swimming, you're doing push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, and you kind of have a whole entire composite score as well. And the top scores get pulled out of that bucket and then sent to, if you're under that contract and going in that job classification, that direction, you get your number called, you go out to boot camp in Chicago, and then you go through a preparatory school there in Chicago as well to start to groom you and get you ready for buds out in Coronado for first days. And you're earning your ticket every step of the way. So it was just an incredible experience, an incredible time in my life. And before that, I had done, graduated from Flagler College in St. Augustine, went back home to Virginia Beach, where I grew up, to work with my father in commercial real estate, and then had an opportunity to work for an investment banking firm in New York City, which was an incredible experience for 6 months. But I just kept telling myself, if I'm going to do this, if this is what I always had, an itch to join the military to serve, and if I was going to do it, I was 24 at the time, and if I was going to do it, now was the time. Peak
Yeah.
physical condition,
Right.
stamina, wherewithal, the ability to drive, to do it, everything. And I was like, this is the time. So that's where I woke up, and I'm like, all right, this is what I'm doing. This is where I want to go, and really, really give it my best shot. So spent 4 years out there in San Diego. Met my wife out there. Now we have 4 children, but it was an incredible, again, just an incredible point in time, and just truly living in the moment, where you are so focused on what you're doing, kind of the task at hand. Went through 3 classes out there. I broke both my legs, I tore both my shoulders, and I went blind in my first hell week. So I had my fair share of injuries, but I never quit. Still hold that very close to my chest, and met some incredible people, incredible humans while we were out there.
Yeah. What a story with that. I mean, you went through it, and then you broke your leg once, and then you said, "I'm gonna go back and do it again." And
I jokingly said, you'd have to sit before a board and kind of state your case of why you deserve to be there. And the answer is, you don't deserve to be there.
right.
But I would jokingly say, and this was not a course to the board, but I'm like, well, I've got nothing better to do. This is it, right? What else am I going to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait tables. I'd already done that. Park cars. I did that. So I said, I'll continue to play on the beach.
Yeah.
Jokingly saying.
Yeah. And then you ultimately ended up in
Back in
Florida.
Yeah, back in so, I met my wife out there. She was from Northern Virginia. As I said, I grew up in Virginia Beach. We didn't know each other, but we had that commonality, and it was a lot of fun. And when we were deciding where we wanted to end up and start a family, I didn't want to move to Northern Virginia selfishly.
Mhm.
She didn't want to move to Virginia Beach. I said, okay, well, I went to Flagler. There's a pretty great alumni network, and people that we know in that town, and maybe there's an opportunity for us to get a job and build a life out there in Northeast Florida. So we landed in Ponte Vedra and ended up going to work through an alumni connection there at Flagler for a very reputable and well-known employee benefit insurance practice. And that's where I initially started out just selling life insurance. And that was the opportunity that was present. And so jumped in not knowing a thing about insurance, not knowing a thing about life insurance. And fast forward, that segued and evolved into additional licensings and training and designations, which segued into the wealth management, true financial services and the 401k management as well. So I spent 5 years at that firm, and it was just, an incredible time again, and 5 years of a master class of like on the job training of being able to learn the trade, understand the process, understand the value. I think really launched me into where we are today, 2 years into Wheeler Wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of that built the foundation. What do you feel like success looks like to you?
Hmm. That's It's a great question, and it looks so differently to everybody. And I'll go back to one thing that was pounded into us in the Navy and going through buds was this concept of the whole man. And so that's kind of how I like to define success. It's not monetarily, it's the entire picture. So again, the whole man, and that's what they really preach throughout training is like you can be a physical stud, but you got to be a good dude, and you got to be a good teammate. You got to show up at the right time, at the right place, with the right gear, ready to perform. And that's something that's really stuck with me because we think about success tied to money, and where I think that that's just one sliver of the pie, of the whole man. And so, having a family, we have 4 kids now, ranging from 7 to 4 months, and just balance. Success to me is balance and being there for my wife, being there for my kids, being there for, the people we work with, those internal to Wheeler Wealth, those external clients, friends, family. It's the whole man, it's the whole picture. Being able to appropriately and effectively, intentionally balance that entire scale, that entire, piece of the pie, which is a challenge every single day. I think that's what keeps me running because you're never going to be perfect at it. One's going to suffer and you're going to have to kind of pivot, you're going to have to adjust, but that's to me is what success is, and what's fun about it is being able to make those adjustments on the fly, pause, check in with yourself and understand I'm not being a great husband today, this week, this month, this year, whatever it is, and effectively knowing what I need to do to change it. I think that ties to it's just like with business and the success within that. My dad growing up would always tell me, whoever makes the most mistakes wins. And
Huh.
he meant it in a way of when you're able to learn from your mistakes, when you're able to learn from your failures, that's how you win. That's how you succeed in business. And I think that, same thing with life. What mistakes am I making, realizing those, understanding those, and making the positive adjustments to correct.
Yeah, it's like how can you recalibrate and balance, it's about life is just a balancing act.
Always,
Yeah.
always. And it's a moving target, and things I think in every, I've only lived so much life, and there's, hopefully so much life to live, going forward. But from what I see and hear and talking with people, it's just, all throughout these different age groups and timing of their lives, it's just adjustments. And, I just had lunch with a guy today for lunch, or yeah, of course, had lunch with him today. But I read this article about how, a successful marriage, a guy and a woman who had been married for 60 years, and call it he was 80, and saying in this post of, you don't marry the one woman, she's evolving and being able to adjust appropriately for every phase of her life is what was the success to his marriage. Not just saying, well, this is the woman that I married before we had kids, before we had careers. You have to adjust along the way.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I think for me, it's like at a young age, I wanted to create something, be successful, had all these ideas. And then you get into the working world and you're like, wait, is it all about that? Obviously you want to have that drive, and if
Mhm,
that's
mhm.
something that's attractive to you, but then you're thinking, wait, I got to take care of myself too.
Yeah,
Like I'm
yeah.
stressing myself out trying to push every day, and because you need some of that anxiety and that stress to motivate you. But
Mhm.
when you get overloaded, that burnout is crazy.
It's real, yeah, it's assess, check in, pause, give yourself grace, and because, yeah, you can burn it from both ends and burn yourself out. For me, I feel like I like to thrive in the chaos, and I feel like that's what kept me going back to each of those buds classes out there. I loved it. I loved the chaos. I loved the intensity, and so that's where, I think back at the time when I started Wheeler Wealth, we had just had our 3rd son, and we had just moved into a new house, and then I decided to start Wheeler Wealth, like all at the same time. So I was just like,
yeah,
and Amy, my wife, is like, "What are we doing?" And I'm like,
yeah,
"Give it 2 years, right?"
yeah,
And it'll be a completely different picture than where we are today, and it's just rip off the Band-Aid. And
yeah,
that's what excited me too, was that anxiety, that pressure, that thrill, the chaos, and into it all of just like do it all and do it all at once, and be mindful of that, be smart about that.
right.
But that was always a lot of fun.
Yeah, because it felt like a really calculated risk for you because you had some cushion. You're like, what's the worst that could happen? I can always go back to more of the
Absolutely.
corporate role.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it really hit me, again, like kind of having our 3rd son. Like I was like, I want to build something for us. I want to build something for my family, a legacy, whatever that may mean. And if they join into the Wheeler Wealth business or they don't, either way, I'm happy. And like I didn't go work for my dad.
Yeah,
Didn't want to do that at that time. And so it's just really interesting, and but it's there. And so I'm
yeah,
excited to have that there and have that as an option and a choice for them. But if they choose not to, but that was very important to me, waking up and being like, wow, I really want to build. So, and I watched, again, very successful people in the business world create that value for them and their family. And that ties to, entrepreneurship, legacy, and monetarily as well. And so you have to find the balance on the family side, but just watching that slice of the pie, the success within the business, it came down to do your own thing, create your own ecosystem, your own legacy.
yeah. All right, I gotta ask this. 'Cause I see it everywhere. Are we in an AI bubble? Is the stock market like is it too late for people to get in? Should they wait?
I
What's
don't know. I don't know. It's just it's rapidly evolving. And it changes every single day so fast. And you see things that are not necessarily following the basic fundamentals of how things are evaluated, and just it just seems like upside down. And so are we in an AI bubble? Possibly. Is technology going to continue to flourish and evolve and change each and every day? I think so.
Yeah,
And already seen of how, I heard one speaker talking about data centers and how, there was such a big push for that just very recently. And then now the technology has evolved in real time where they're like, data centers are obsolete. We're moving on to the next thing, the next source, the next energy, where
yeah.
that, I think there's still a place for that, of course, but it's so fascinating to see how quickly it pivoted. So we'll see, and we'll see what that does to the world. And what I like to think is that there is going to be a human in the loop, and there needs to be a human in the loop. And so I heard that term at a conference that I was at, and that really resonated with me. And that's also just me being optimistic and hopeful for mankind, and that the human will be in the loop, and we need the human in the loop. So, but I think we do.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to me, AI has become something that I've just been able to do more. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's
Do your job more effectively, more efficiently, and which allows you, like, what we see from the advisory side, the financial advisory, it's empowering advisors, equipping them with the tools to do their job better, more effectively, to ultimately spend more time with the client, understanding the client, knowing their needs, wants, desires, dynamics, all the above. So just pouring more time into the client, which is what that's incredible.
yeah, yeah. It's a lot of it, it's like it's helping you become more human. It's like the
Yeah.
human interaction is becoming more important. The stuff that is almost, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you do with data input or whatever it is in your job that
Mhm,
you're
mhm.
like, "Wait, there's gotta be a better way. I'm not just a robot. A robot could do this." Right?
Yes,
But the
yes, yeah.
relationships, it frees up your time to be able to focus on the relationships of people because 'cause you're always gonna need people in the world.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I hope so, you know?
Maybe not.
I
Maybe not.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm optimistic, I'm optimistic.
Yeah, and things, I mean, AI is rapidly transforming,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
that's true, but things still don't change as fast as you think. Even if the technology does, it's,
Yeah,
the
yep.
people aren't really.
Adoption rates, whatever however you wanna coin it, call it. I mean, it's just things do take time.
Yeah. Okay. Alright, so one one more question for you. Real estate, stocks, crypto, you can only make one investment for the rest of your life. Well, you can make multiple. You could put your money in it. What are you gonna do?
All 3. I want my cake and eat it too. No,
Yeah, well, you're
I don't know. That's a great question, and I think it depends on kinda going back to that, what I always say, needs, wants, desires, and I think, you look at, let's just go with real estate first. Incredible. I grew up in a real estate family. That was what my dad did as a career. That was his love, his passion too. That's what his dad did. My grandfather was in commercial real estate. What I see, it's an incredible wealth building and wealth preservation asset class for not only today but potentially generations to come.
yeah.
And that's incredible. That's really cool. And but then saying maybe there's a family or an individual where they need liquidity and, potentially, there's certain barriers to entry with real estate, typically speaking, and I know there's ways around this, right? But typically it's going to cost more for you to invest or purchase real estate than it is to go buy a share of the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF fund. So the
Yeah, a lot
barrier.
more to get in, barrier, you gotta
Exactly, yeah,
qualify, whatever it may be, put up the down payment.
correct. Yep, exactly. Where anybody can open up a Robinhood app and plug in $100 and pick a stock, and now I'm invested into the market. What I like about that, and then that kind of dovetails into crypto, is the liquidity aspect. And so knowing, I think it depends on the client, the classification, risk, time horizon, all the above of what's the perfect fit. The crypto and the stock, you have ultimate liquidity, intraday trading. Whereas the real estate, depending upon the property, depending upon the asset class, it could take a week, it could take 90 days, it could take 5 years to sell. Who
Right.
knows? So there can be a lack of liquidity in real estate, which can be, hard to work through, where the crypto and the stock provide instant liquidity. The crypto, so that's why I love the stock, but I love in stock, and that could be, ETFs, that could be mutual funds, all the above.
What's a blessing and a curse too for some people? Because some people might, you're selling when maybe you should just be holding on or,
Yeah,
vice
yeah,
versa.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly. The crypto is to me, there's still a lot of wading through, who's going to be the top dog, the winner, that the kind of that rises to the top, that ultimately becomes the foundational component of cryptocurrency. You've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the other ones, and so those are the two. XRP, but hasn't really done too much, it seems like. But Bitcoin and Ethereum seeming to be the two market leaders. And I love the liquidity aspect and just the virtual nature of wherever I am in the world. This currency can be traded in real time for actual goods and services. But the volatility is still nerve wracking and in a point of contention for a lot of folks.
Yeah, I talked to a friend the other day and he started a business where they help people send money overseas. So someone that's sending money back to their family, say
Yeah.
say in South America, they work up here and then they send a portion of it back. They're getting hit with such high fees from the bank and currency transfers and all this. So they created this technology that it actually turns the money into a stable coin, and then the person, the family in South America has a card that they can either transfer into their currency,
Love
which
that.
sometimes can be, their currencies aren't doing that well against the US, so they could hold it in I think it's the US stable coin, something
Yeah, and have more
USDC.
value than their origin currency.
Right, so
It's amazing.
they can hold it there or they can transfer it, so I thought that was pretty cool going around the bank fees, the international, and so sending money at an instant is really
Yeah,
the advantage of that,
it's
and that's
incredible.
where I told him, I was like, "Wait, is that or the stable coins, is that just kind of the future?" And then you could think of Bitcoin as the gold of it, where people are investing because crypto is becoming a actual currency, or
Mhm,
where
mhm,
are we
or the
headed right
dollar.
now?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I know. It's fascinating. I think there's so much to be developed. There's so much to be seen
Yeah,
with it all, and but it's fascinating, and you see all this tokenization and of different asset classes as well, and so it's certainly, digital is where the world is moving, where the world is going, and so I think just time will tell, and if you're a betting person, or making bets or making investments, right? If you can try to find and pick, the one that you feel is going to be on top. I saw an interview with Mr. Wonderful, and he had
yeah,
he had speaking to that specifically, of he's placing a bet on one of them that he believes is going to rise to the top and be there at the end of the day, and
yeah.
others will crumble. So it's interesting, and I think it's kind of like a to be seen. And in a perfect world, can you have a blend of all three? And that's where we think of that diversified portfolio. You have exposure in real estate, you have exposure in stocks and bonds and alternative assets, and then cryptocurrency as well. Everything is a piece in the puzzle, in the overall puzzle.
I think that's the fun way to do it too.
Yeah.
It's just have a little bit of everything and not
Yeah.
get too tied up into one thing,
Yep.
whether going all in on crypto or
Yeah.
certain companies
Yep.
where, you have it all. You buy the house, the rest of the money you have left over, you plug it into investments, and then you
Yeah.
keep money for the emergency fund. I mean, it really can be that simple for a lot of people. I mean, for the everyday American, it's like debt is getting so high, and
Mhm. Mhm.
you're paying 28% on your credit card.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's definitely tough out there for a lot of people, and you're just
It is, and that's something that, we're not blind to. We're not, it's not falling on deaf ears, when we sit down, because we're sitting down with, everybody in these 401k plans from the top down, highest paid to lowest paid employee of these groups. And so we see it, we feel it, we understand it, and that's where people will say, well, should I start investing? But I got 20 grand of credit card debt at 28%. And it's like, no, we need to extinguish, exhaust, eliminate that debt first before we do anything, because just that interest, that compounding interest, is just going to erode any positive movements that you're taking in the stock market, and in any type of emergency savings or anything like that. So it's always, eliminate that first and foremost, then we can start making those positive moves, and it gives them a breath of fresh air. And but yeah, it's really hard. I mean, we've got 4 kids, and the
yeah.
grocery bills are just astronomical.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
those Whole Foods bills, those
Yeah,
add up.
what's even crazier is Publix is the same price as Whole Foods now, and it's just like,
Yeah,
what world are we living in?
yeah.
So I don't know, like, where do we go from here? Where does it keep going? What's broken? What will break? Is there a food bubble?
Yeah, yeah,
I don't even know, but it's just,
yeah,
yeah, it's really hard, and I feel like, cost of living has just continually increased, and just at a exponential rate in recent years since COVID too.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is if you wanna climb out, you gotta find a way to make more money.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
It's,
Not
to me,
always
that's what I
immediate.
see. It's not ideal for a lot of people. To me, that's how I see it. I'm like, "Okay, I just gotta figure out a way to make more."
Yeah.
These
Yep.
bills are adding up, whatever it may be. Alright, we got to, sometimes it is like you said, you gotta add that pressure to yourself, and that's kinda
Yeah.
what you did to yourself. you bought a house, which was the highest mortgage payment you've ever experienced,
Yep,
and you went and
yep,
started a business, and you
yeah,
said, "Okay." I mean, I've
pressure's
heard
on.
you say, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sink or swim,
Yeah.
right? You
Yep. Yeah.
sometimes
The only way is to perform and continue to move forward. And that's, again, kind of taking a life lesson that I learned, from, I mean, I think it was before the Navy, but just instilled while I was in the Navy is just keep on moving forward, one foot in front of the other, keep your head up, keep grinding, keep going, and you'll make it.
Alright. Well, hey, that's 36 minutes. That was some good
Awesome.
stuff.
It was good.
Alright. Here we go. Stop.